Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Lai, 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 lai. La, ra, rai, la, ra, rai. Lai, lai, rai, lai, rai. La, ra, lai, rai, rai. Lai, rai, la, ra, la, ra, la, ra, lai. Lai, rai, la, ra, la, ra, la, ra, lai. Lai, rai, la, ra, la, ra, la, ra, lai. La, ra, lai, lai, rai. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Please join us in page 14, singing Ma Yafeh Hayom. How wonderful today is. Shabbat Shalom. Ma Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Ma Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. I hope you had a wonderful week. I know it is hard to be at home and feel isolated, but I hope you found constructive things to do online, on Zoom, calling people on the phone, and keeping your distance. I mean, that is hard, to cleave to one another spiritually, emotionally, psychologically, but not physically, to feel close. But you know, ours is a tradition of optimism and hope. Ours is a tradition of discipline, being able to follow rules and see value within the rules. And this is a time to be machmir, to be strict in the rules, not to be so lenient. So we have to follow the guidelines of the CDC. It is sometimes hard to follow rules, but it will ennoble us personally to know we're doing our part for tikkun olam, for taking care of the world, repairing the world, and knowing that as we are saving other people, they are saving us. Our cantor is going to continue with a reading that I sent out in my letter a couple weeks ago.
And the people stayed home and read books and listened and rested and exercised and made art and played games and learned new ways of being and were still and listened more deeply. Some meditated, some prayed, some danced, some met their shadows, and the people began to think differently. And the people healed. And when the danger passed and the people joined together again, they grieved their losses and made new choices and dreamed new images and created new ways to live and heal the earth fully as they had been healed.
Please rise for the blessing over the Shabbat candles.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher קידשנו במצוותיו, וציוונו להדליק נר של Shabbat.
We turn in our Sidurim and the booklets that we mailed out to you, that you downloaded, that we emailed out to you. We joined together without arms around each other. I know it's not easy because we're so used to putting our arms around each other a few times during the service. But for safety, Shalom Aleichem, page 1.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachi Hasharet, Malachi Elyon. Mi melech Malchei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem leshalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachi Elyon. Mi melech Malchei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. ברכוני לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון. מי מלך מלכי המלאכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. צא איתכם לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון. מי מלך מלכי המלאכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Please wish Shabbat Shalom to those around you if you have others in the room. If you're alone, wish Shabbat Shalom to us. We wish Shabbat Shalom to you. We're not shaking hands, but we're putting hands over heart. So we're going to continue on page 1, bottom of the page. Lecha Dodi.
Lecha Dodi לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. Lecha Dodi לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלן. שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ולתפארת ונתילה. לך תודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי היא מקור הברכה. מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
We rise and face the doorway, the back doorway, to welcome in the Shabbat Queen. Think of people you'd like to have with you tonight celebrating. Think of people who you haven't talked to yet, but you're going to call up, or you haven't emailed yet. Think of people in your ever-widening circle, perhaps people you haven't talked to in months or years. Bring them into your circle and bring yourself into theirs. We rise, Boi v'shalom.
בואי ושלום, עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, ענייני שבת מקבלה. לה-רי לי לה-רי-לי, לה-רי לי לה-רי-לי, לה-רי לי לי, לה-לי-רי, לה-רי, לה-רי לי לה-רי-לי, לה-רי לי לה-רי-לי, לה-רי לי לי, לה-רי.
We rise for Baruch Hu, page 2.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך, ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברכו את אדוני המבורך, ברכו את אדוני המבורך. ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברכו את אדוני המבורך, ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
Please be seated. Let's take a few moments before the Shema. The Shema is found on page 4. A few moments of kavanah to think about what was the most important thing that we did for someone else during this past week, and what was the most important thing that someone did for us. Sometimes we don't appreciate sufficiently those loved ones who are around us, so perhaps it was one of them, or maybe it was someone who did something for us and it was completely unexpected because they didn't know that they would reach out. One way to spend the time, this very valuable and precious time that we have while we're staying at home, is to be able to think about tikkun olam, things we can do, gemilut chasadim, to make the world a better place. Even if we can't touch hands, we can reach out with our hearts and accomplish a great deal. Let's close our eyes and take, just for a moment, some deep, relaxing Shabbat breaths, meditating on those who have done for us and those we have done for.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Efad ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך.
We turn in our Sidurim, in the prayer books that we emailed you, to page 13, bottom right, and we read together. I'll give you a moment to find it. We read together. We give away our thanks to the earth, which gives us our home. We give away our thanks to the rivers and lakes and oceans, which give away their water. We give away our thanks to the trees, which give away fruit and nuts. We give away our thanks to the wind, which brings rain to water the plants. We give away our thanks to the sun, which gives away warmth and light. All beings on earth, the trees, the animals, the wind, and the rivers, give away to one another, so all is in balance. We give away our promise to begin to learn how to stay in balance with all the earth. Please rise for Misha Beirach, page 15. Think of those who are facing health challenges. Wish them well in your hearts. Whisper their names. A prayer for healing for us, for our anxieties. Disease is not just physical. Dis-ease is also emotional and spiritual. Misha Beirach.
Misha Beirach Avoteinu Mekor Abracha Leimoteinu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misha Beirach Imoteinu Mekor Abracha Leavoteinu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shleima, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say
We remain standing as we turn to Kiddush. Tonight we're going to do just the one-line Kiddush and then the Motzi and the Motziyah. Page 9.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, bore peri hagafen. L'chaim.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz, nevarech et ein hachayim, hamotzia lechem min haaretz. Please be seated, everyone. A few words of Torah. This week's portion is Vayikra. We begin a new book, not just a new chapter, a new book, the middle book. The book that has the most sublime chapter of the whole Torah in it, Leviticus 19, but we're not there yet. Leviticus 19, called Parshat Kedoshim, the Holiness Code, rules of human behavior, ethical rules, not ritual rules. The rest of the book of Leviticus is filled with a lot of ritual rules. And most of the time we read it and go, ay, Gewalt, how are we going to go through all of these rules, ancient rules, rules we can't observe anymore, rules we don't want to observe anymore? But when we look at this parasha, it tells us do not touch anything unclean. It's the rules of holiness. And you know the expression, cleanliness is next to godliness, which is a modern expression, maybe a century old. It's implicit in Judaism that it's many millennia old. That keeping clean, keeping safe, observing medical rules, even ancient biblical medical rules, it gives us shalom, it gives us peace. The root of shalom is not just peace or hi and goodbye. It's to be complete, to be whole. And through being very careful what we touch and being careful to decontaminate ourselves, that's what this portion is about. It could not have been a better portion for us, difficult as it is. Don't touch anything unclean, but if you do, decontaminate yourself, the Torah says. Before Purell, the Torah understood the power of contagion, not because of science, but through observation, seeing how people became ill if one person had an illness and passed it to another. This portion is about sacrifice. Yes, animal sacrifice is no longer relevant, something we would never want to do again. But we are all sacrificing now, and there is a nobility in sacrifice for the sake of society. It costs time, it costs money, it costs part of our emotional life. But it keeps others and ourselves safe. That's what Vayikra, the book of Leviticus, is telling us. Wash your hands. Be clean. Keep others clean. Follow the rules. Stay safe. We rise and turn to Aleinu. Aleinu is found on page 10.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שנתן לנו תורת אמת, וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים, לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
We remain standing for our final prayer, Mourner's Kaddish, Kaddish Yatom. It's found in our booklets on page 11. We think of all those whom we love who have passed away. This might be their yahrzeit. It might be a recent death. We think of them, we whisper their names, and we join for Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabbah, Bi'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, B'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, B'gala v'zman kariv v'yimru amen. Yehi shmei rabbah mevarach li'olam u'lamei maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei kudsha briachu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shalama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru amen. We join together, unfortunately not with arms around each other as usual, ending this service with these words of peace on us, on our people, and all humanity.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. Shabbat
Shabbat
shalom.
shalom.
We love you. Shabbat shalom.